I am a businesswoman. And so even though it started as something fun to do on the side, it became a whole lifestyle. I built my network, kind of just organically started sort of working my way up the ranks. We're a mission-oriented business, and we want to achieve gender equity and equality in music and beyond. Basically, companies that are more diverse have 40% higher chance of reaching their financial goals.
We live in a world where men, women, non-binary, whatever the hell you are, we're equals. We're all on the same page here. So keep up the good fight.
Welcome to the podcast, where we introduce you to incredible humans who share their journeys with the mission to inspire you to harness your own inner tenacity to drive your life and career forward. And now, your host, Adam Posner.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast, where I bring in the best and the brightest in the world of business, marketing, and personal growth to help you harness your own inner tenacity and drive your career forward. My guest today on the podcast is Shira Yevin, the visionary founder and CEO of Gritty in Pink. She is revolutionizing the music industry through her groundbreaking marketplace, In Pink. And this platform empowers women and gender-expansive creators with employment opportunities, providing a space to showcase their talents, connect with employers, and most importantly, secure fair pay. So much that I truly believe in, and we'll get into it. So backed by Live Nation women and advisors like Melissa Etheridge, In Pink is a testament to her relentless pursuit of gender equality. We're going to get into that and a lot more. Shira, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And we were talking for a minute before, and when I get pitched a bunch by so many different guests, and I saw your background, it had music, hiring, gender, pay equality, all these things I love to talk about. So we are going to do it right now. So before we even do that, we have to hit the rewind button. You have an incredible background, an eclectic background. But if you don't mind me asking, what did your parents do for a living?
My mom was in real estate. My dad was actually a teacher in the Bronx for many years. And he was also a stockbroker in the 80s. So he has that business side to him. But yeah, nothing in entertainment or music or anything like that. So I went a little out of range. And of course, them being overbearing Jewish parents wanted me to be a doctor or a lawyer. So I didn't quite, fall under that category.
But we get there. It's so funny too. Both my parents in New York City Board of Ed. Both my parents are teachers as well. My parents taught in Brooklyn. My dad was in East New York, and it was
Nice.
crazy there too. But if you look back on it, so were your parents musical?
No, actually, really not at all. Yeah, my dad taught at Samuel Gompers Technical High School in the Bronx. They were not musical. My brother and I are very creative, though. We got it from somewhere. But perhaps it was just a product of our generation, like growing up on MTV and all that.
Growing up on MTV, when did you first pick up an instrument, and what was it?
So when I was 7, my mom took me to keyboard lessons at the back of the Yamaha store. And I had my little Casio. And honestly, Adam, I hated it because I actually grew up dancing since I was 5 years old. That was my first love of performing, tap, ballet, jazz. And so I loved the stage, but I hated standing in one place and focusing. And so I protested. Looking back, I wish that I had stuck with it because it would be a cool tool to have in my tool belt now. I can mess around a little bit, but I don't play. Yeah. I had a couple false starts too. In 4th grade, we had to pick an instrument for school, and I wanted to play saxophone. It was that's what Lisa Simpson did. And my mom said,
great reference.
Yeah. My mom said, girls don't play the saxophone. She'll deny saying this to this day, but she did say this to me. So I was forced to play the flute. That also only lasted 3 months. Hated the flute. Really not until I picked up the guitar at 16 was I like, okay, I could do this. And I still was just driven by the performance aspect, dancing. I was very serious about dancing. I did dance competitions, and that's really what
sounds like my mind. But I
dance and theater. Yeah.
I want to go back to Lisa. There really is no cooler. Listen, aside from the guitar, there's no cooler instrument than the saxophone. It's sexy, it's cool.
Yeah.
I go back. I'm a huge Billy Joel fan, and you always see the sax player comes out. And even this past weekend, I don't know if you're familiar with Vampire Weekend. They had an incredible saxophone player out there, and it just brings a different dynamic. Now, in the creative space, theater, drama, when did you first start writing your own songs? Was that something when they were little?
So I actually started with performance art and theater and creative writing and spoken word. I really didn't start. I did poetry, but I didn't really start until college. And what happened was I studied abroad in London. And to be honest, my family was always like, Shira, you can't sing. Ironically, my name means song in Hebrew. So I think that was always in my head. Oh, I got to live up to my
the
name.
Right? The name, the birth. You have to be a good singer.
Singing is like a muscle. So you're told that you're not good at it. You're like, okay, I'm not good at it. But then I discovered punk rock and riot girl culture, and the whole thing was you don't have to be good at it. Like literally just it's about having something to say. It's about making a statement. And so that there was freedom in that for me because I was like, oh, I don't need to have a big vocal range. I could just shout into a mic. That was
look at Stefani. That's a poor example. So what
she
was
has a
some
great
of the,
voice, but yeah.
No, she actually. I take that back. Out of all the female quote unquote punk, because they're punk, no doubt is a punk band if you go back into it.
Oh yeah.
But what were some of those musical influences that inspired your songwriting, like your early songwriting, once you were more at a mature kind of level of writing a song?
Yeah. So I would say Bikini Kill, like the whole Joan Jett.
Oh yeah.
I got very into riot girl culture right before I started abroad in London. And then that was the first time I actually wrote a song. It was like, you go abroad, you're like, I can reinvent myself. I met a producer over there.
I'm European. I'm also faded now. Right?
Yeah. And so I wrote a song. I was actually working on a performance art piece about Britney Spears. And I wrote a song called 3 Minute Me. It was just like poking fun at pop music and the idea of celebrity and how you get to know celebrities. And then my second song was called This Is Not a Girl, which is obviously leading into my whole feminism side. So that was a good, I think, foreshadow for what was to come.
So you speak about the feminism side. Was there something in your life that triggered it? What drew you to be vocal and really take it up as a cause to really champion?
Yeah, so I did theater studies and feminist studies in college, learning about feminism there. And this was before it was like trendy. There was no Barbie movie or anything like that. And I did, as I mentioned, get involved with kind of a group of riot girls in New York. I was a dancer and a choreographer, and I got picked to choreograph this play. It was called She Cuts Herself, She Likes to Write by Gina Young. And I basically just got into this like scene, this like gang of like girls. They were all in hardcore bands, and we would go to the basement of ABC, No Rio, like Continental, CBs. There's nothing I ever knew before.
Whole new world.
And then the zine culture, and like I said, just being empowered. Like I remember the first time I ever sang live was at Meow Mix in the Lower East Side, and we had a party.
It's still around? No, there's another bar there, and I know where it is. Yep.
But it's like a Western bar now or something. But yeah, there was like this Shiro's party, and I sang I Love Rock and Roll and also Rebel Girl, Bikini Kill. And so, yeah, that I think informed me because like I said, I just was like, oh, I can have a band and not have to worry about being a good singer. But obviously, the more you do it, you get better.
So you have this passion. It's more than a passion. It's what you're doing. But now you're out in the real world and you're like, shit, got to make some money. How did that transition into a world of sales and beverage sales?
Yeah. So after college, I got on the Warped Tour working for the Truth campaign. So leading into my marketing side. And I was an MC. I don't know if you're familiar with Truth. It's like an anti-tobacco for teens campaign. And they had this
I used to smoke a lot of cigarettes when I was younger. We all, some extent.
Yeah. Maybe you needed
our experimental phases, right?
Yes. Maybe you needed to come across the Truth campaign. But it was we were on the tour basically disseminating facts and information to teens. Obviously, it doesn't work if you go to teens and say, stop smoking. So we would give out this really cool swag with skulls on it that said 1,200 people die a day from cigarette smoke, or here's all the chemicals that are in cigarettes. I was on the Warped Tour doing this, and my girlfriend and bandmate at the time was DJing, and sometimes we would do songs because we were really just like engaging the audience. We would do games and things like that. And I just noticed when I was on the tour, there were no female musicians on stage. And I was shocked because, as I said, I came from the scene. People would say, girls don't play this kind of music. Warped Tour, it's a skate punk tour. And I would say, no, that's not true. I know a lot of girls that play this kind of music. And so we wanted to bring that energy to the tour the next year. It was the 10th anniversary of the tour. And I went to Kevin Lyman, who I knew from working at The Truth. He's the founder of the tour. And we said, can we bring some girl bands to the tour? They had this girls' garage tent. And we said, can we set up shop in the girls' garage tent and we'll DJ and host local bands? And he was like, you know what? Great idea. Let's do it next year. He said, we got a lot going on this year. It's the 10th anniversary. When you're 21, like next year is 20 years, right?
It's so far away.
So we just crashed the tour. We decided to just drive in. We had a pink RV that we were touring in, and we decided to just drive in and crash the tour. And
so punk.
It was very punk rock. And we ended up returning to create an official stage for over 300 female fronted bands, including Paramore in their first ever tour. This was 2005. and Joan Jett graced the stage, and we got in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame Warped Tour exhibit. And
there you
so,
go.
yeah, this set me off on a lifelong crusade to carve out space for women in music and other male-dominated industries. Yeah,
no one plans this, right? Like you don't set out to go do this, but you're following your passion. And you're working. Correct me, keep me straight here. You're working at the time in sales, right? You got to pay the bills.
I was doing some like beverage stuff, like just getting into, yeah, exactly. Like I'm in a band, I'm young, I want to tour. I'm like, okay, we'll do some beverage promotions. And obviously music and beverage are always going to be in bed with each other. And from doing that, after doing that tour and launching the stage, I ended up getting a job with, do you remember Sparks caffeinated alcohol beverage?
Jeez, it was one of like the first.
Yeah. It's like pre-Four Loko. So I was throwing this party in Brooklyn. I moved to Brooklyn and I was throwing this party called Girls in the Hood. It was female fronted bands, female DJs, female bartenders. We wanted to extend what we were doing with the stage into the city. And I needed a sponsor for the night. I ended up getting linked with the Sparks brand. I was like, this is something fun to do on the side till my band blows up. I would throw parties and sponsor, get us into I already knew all the bar owners from booking my band.
You had the connections. You were already networking. You were in the scene.
Yeah. So I did that. That turned into a job at PBR for many years, and that was a fun job. And it's funny because I am a businesswoman, and so even though it started as something fun to do on the side, it became a whole lifestyle. I built my network, just organically started working my way up the ranks. I was running all of Metro New York for the brand, and this was when PBR was blowing up in Brooklyn.
Yep, yeah, it was the original hipster beer, the original low cost.
Exactly.
Right, pick a PBR and a shop back, right? That was
yes, for PB&J, PBR,
right.
Jameson. Yeah, so I was doing that. I ended up moving to LA, and I wanted to be on the West Coast for the music scene and everything. And they hired me. I became the director of field marketing for this new brand, Not Your Father's Root Beer. I don't know if you remember that one. They gave me a $3 million budget to launch the brand. So
my God, you give me all this money. What am I going to do with it?
Yeah, I got that experience of running a budget and launching a brand and seeing what the challenges were for launching a brand. And also, I was literally like the only girl in the boardroom. Like we would have these meetings and they would say, and everyone will tiptoe around the president. And I didn't care because the whole time I was in the beverage business, like I was like over it. I was like, oh, this is just something for now. Like I want to be in music, or even I thought about doing something in the cannabis space, moving out to LA when I did.
Right.
And people, I think in the corporate environment are just they don't like to be a different voice. And so we were launching a brand called Not Your Mom's Iced Tea. And I said, guys, let's launch this to women, put a little pink on the thing. Like we could own this. And they said, no, pink, no, we're going to lose 50% of our audience. Meanwhile, the brand failed in 6 months. They were literally like,
maybe they should have listened to you.
100%. They were like, oh, we should do football. And I was like, really, guys, football again? This is a PBR. Yeah. I had an experience of being a woman in a male dominated space. It was similar to music, but had its own kind of caveats. But I was able to get that sort of corporate executive experience and learn what to do and what not to do. I learned how to destroy a company culture, among other things.
Let's pause on that for a moment. I want to go back to what you said before. And you mentioned that boardroom. How many other women were sitting at that table at the time? 0. Okay.
None.
And you're like, what the fuck? This is something. How are we informing from a brand marketing position when it's all dudes here, when it's all men? Like, how is it? And is that when you started to say, like, something's wrong here? This isn't right. Like, where's the representation?
Exactly. It was just not considered at the time. Like, I think they were just so like, PBR is our success story and we're just going to keep doing that. It changed later, but like when I was there, it was very bro driven. And I went on to help launch Bev Canned Wine, which was a wine made for chicks. It was literally made by chicks. It got acquired by Gallo last year, but I was like done with the beverage business after Pabst. And then one of the former executives called me up one day and said, hey, I want you to help launch this canned wine. And I was like, thanks, but no thanks. I'm trying to get out of this industry. And he was like, well, it's female focus. Okay, I'm listening. So he sent me the brand deck, and it was everything I was saying at Pabst. Like no one was speaking to women in the cold box. So I got pulled in, but in a way, it was a big turning point in my life because that's where I learned about startups. Like
you got the first taste of what this idea of starting a company was. And I was
oh yeah, I mean, we were in the trenches. I was the only person on the whole team with any beverage experience. I trained the whole sales team and everyone on the way the industry worked, and just seeing it from day one, it was so homegrown. And seeing like the whole process of fundraising and getting investors, and how the owner of the company raised $9 million for this brand. She had never had one day of experience in the business. She was very mission oriented.
What do you think her secret sauce was?
You know, it's such a good question because
Looking
I've thought
back
about
on
this
it
a lot
now,
of
right?
times. Yeah, and when I ended up leaving and I told her I was doing my own thing, she gave me a lot of sort of pointers and kind of insight into how she did it. And one thing that sticks with me, but that I've not been able to own is, she said, "I am woman, hear me roar" has never worked for me. She goes, "People like to help a damsel in distress." And like,
cringing.
it doesn't sit right,
I'm
right?
cringing
You hear
a little
that.
bit. I'm cringing.
It's cringy. It's very cringy. But meanwhile, she raised 9 mil.
You play
But
the game.
I know, but again, for me, it doesn't sit right with me just because my personality. I am very like in control and whatnot, but it's advice I've definitely thought about at times in certain meetings.
Hey everybody, I want to talk about a product and platform that I absolutely love, and our latest sponsor, Interseller, the prospecting and outreach platform of choice for recruiters and sellers. Whether you're doubling down on business development or recruiting talent, Interseller does all the heavy lifting of finding contact data, automating the email and follow-up process, and syncs all that rich data into 20 plus CRM and ATS platforms. Reach out now and get going on a 2-week free trial and let them know you heard about it from Adam on the podcast today. Check out the link on the website. Appreciate it.
So where was that first seed planted for Gritty and Pink? Where was that first kind of idea, I need to do something.
Yeah.
I have a voice. I could be a change maker. Where was that first kind of light bulb aha moment?
It really
take
goes
us back,
back.
Shira.
Yeah, no, it really goes back to the Warped Tour. I told you the story. When we crashed the tour, we got a write-up in the Ventura County Star cover story called Gritty and Pink. And we were coined that. It was actually, I think the Bergen Record was actually the first one.
So
it was a syndicated article.
They called you Gritty and Pink.
Yeah, so that's where the brand name came from. And we were at the time, my band was like, oh, that
Can't
would
even
be
take credit for that.
It's a
You're like,
great
I didn't come
name.
up with the own name of our company.
No, and in fact, I reached out to the author a couple years back, and I tracked her down on Instagram. I was like, by the way, thanks for the inspo. But obviously, it's a play on Pretty and Pink, and it just stuck with us. We love the idea of gritty, keeping it gritty, and then obviously Pink as a brand. And we were wanting to do like a female Warped Tour, essentially. And then with me getting into the beverage business and my bank shifted, and it was dormant for a long time. And in 2018, Kevin Lyman announced that it was going to be the final year of the Warped Tour, and we decided to bring back the stage. We had done it various years from 2005 to 2018, like about 4 or 5 times. And so all this press coverage about the history of the tour and the history of our stage came up. And at the time, also, my band was recording with Tim Armstrong from Rancid, who I met on the first Warped Tour. So my band Shira Girl was releasing an EP, and it was just a rebirth of everything that made me inspired to do what I do. And my manager at the time was like, let's bring back this brand. I got inspired also by Emo Night. I don't know if you're familiar with the whole Emo Night phenomenon. But
No, I never went down the emo path.
Yeah, so emo and kind of
I
Warped Tour.
guess is my like, maybe if you want to call Radiohead emo, if you even want to go in that direction, but that's like as far in my musical spectrum.
It's more like 2000s, like My Chemical Romance, Fall Out Boy.
Like, that kind of fun emo stuff.
Yeah. So I had some friends that started this emo night. It was started as a DJ night in LA and became this whole phenomenon. They did festivals, they toured to different cities, and it's literally just them like DJing emo songs everyone loves, and everyone like dances and sings along. But there's a real camaraderie. So I was like, okay, maybe we'll start it as a monthly event. That's because I have this big vision. Actually, when I left Bev, I went to Kevin Lyman, who had become my longtime mentor and advisor and is now an investor in the company. And I stayed up all night and I did a 30-page deck and I had all these ideas and it was a lot. And I wanted to do events, but I also wanted to do content studio for media. I wanted to do lifestyle partnerships and I wanted to do an online network. And I had this whole vision. And Kevin's come over, let's have dinner, we'll sit at the counter. And we went through this deck and this all sounds great. And he goes, you need to focus. You got to start with one thing. So we said, okay, let's start with the events. LOL, this was 2019. No one knew what was coming the next year. Yep. So we decided to launch as a monthly event, January 2020, at this at this venue called the Satellite. We had 3 magical months. We did Grammys, Valentine's, a Women's Month theme, and we had the best female musicians in LA. Eva Gardner, the bassist for Pink. We had Kiki Wong, who's now playing with Smashing Pumpkins. We really had incredible talent. And we started this awesome community. We literally did 3 shows in 6 weeks. Then, of course, COVID hit.
Yeah.
Not one. And at the time, I was working for another beverage startup brand called Owl's Brew. Obviously, things got shuffled around. I ended up losing my job. And I just thought, you know what? Now's the time. I'm on fun employment at this point. I'm like, now's the time to kind of plant the seeds because people were looking for connection. They were looking for
they wanted something.
Performance opportunities. So we started doing Instagram live stream fundraisers every week. This was like what we did. We had our little pod. We would do different cover songs and themes and different charity partners. we did a virtual tour that got written up by Alternative Press, and they talked about my history with starting the Shira Girl stage and doing this. In a way, it helped us really go from this smaller local scene platform to a national platform because everything went virtual. So we featured
it helped. It was a silver lining.
It was. And I was able to focus on what I loved. And then from there, we started doing Zoom workshops for songwriting and social media. And then we landed on this idea of a marketplace. And really what landed us there was thinking about how can we help women in this industry the most. And what we came up with was women need to get hired and they need to get paid, right? Period. And so that's the idea for the marketplace was born. And I remember mulling it over in my head because I thought it was going to be one thing, like almost like a LinkedIn for women in music. And it was more focused on artists in the beginning. Then we opened it up to women working in all aspects of the industry, which I love because we have a whole ecosystem. But I remember it was right around the time Amazon bought MGM Studios. And I remember thinking, oh, okay, they started as a book marketplace and now they're like taking over the entertainment industry. So I remember that allowed me to open up my mind.
It's like what you imagine is never what you think it's going to be. And I think that's something that's so interesting with entrepreneurship too. But also, Shira, having that elastic, expandable mind where you're not laser focused. No, this is what we're doing. This is what my head is like into, and this is what we're going for because you saw the need and you were able to adapt but you were still kept to your North Star. Right. We're gonna focus on fair pay and equity for women. We're gonna level the playing field here. So once you came to this idea of, hey, this is what it's gonna be, like how did you set up guardrails?
We wanted to be that global destination to hire women in every aspect of the industry. And then we realized we had to go two ways. First of all, we had to get a little more laser focused on you can't be all things to everyone in the beginning.
And you're nothing to everybody. Yeah.
Exactly. And we were very events driven when events started coming back. We were working with different brand partners. We let that drive a lot of it, signing up live talent, session. And then we realized there's a huge demand for content creators, video, photo, and we leaned into that more, but also influencers. We were all over the place in the beginning, but we also realized in order to raise capital from investors, you have to be able to show a big vision. And so that's when I talked to a lot of incredible advisors in my network. I've exited startup founders, things like that.
No, and you built a tribe. You built a tribe of people that you trust and count on as advisors.
And so then we went from our big vision went to be the global destination to hire women in every industry. Now, to your point about being malleable in your mind, some days you wake up and you're like, wait, what am I building? I just wanted to help women in music. I'm building it. I'm going to change the future of workforce. But it's like, you
lofty
grow into
aspirations.
it. You grow into it because you realize what kind of impact you can have. And investors do want to see, especially in venture capital, like they want to see that big vision and big market.
What was the model? Was it like a traditional job board? Was it a cost per click model? Was it like contingency and recruiting? What was the business model here?
Yeah, great question. So it's more like a Fiverr or Upwork model, if you're familiar. So it's a two-sided marketplace. We charge a booking fee on the client side. So women keep 100% of what they earn, which is different than most platforms which double dip. Yeah.
Yeah, I hate that.
So the client pays, and we felt we would have a competitive advantage to have loyalty from the talent, because the big thing with marketplaces is you have to keep the transactions on the marketplace. And of course, there's a lot of reasons for that. But anyone who's ever been in Uber, when the driver gives you a card, just call me direct. You're like, oh, that's sketchy. Yeah,
it is sketchy. But I want to go back to one of the core missions around pay equity, right? Pay and equity for women here. Was there monitoring of any type of, this is a fee that the client's willing to pay? Is it market value and it has to be within a certain range? Like, how did you monitor it on the marketplace?
Yeah, no, it's such a great question. So women actually make 50% less on digital platforms like Fiverr. And it's because they're underpricing their services. A lot of it goes back to there's a confidence gap. We don't have the boys club. We're not on the golf course type of places figuring out, okay, what do you charge for this? And women just, it's proven that women, don't negotiate their salaries as much and are just, it's a lot of conditioning and social conditioning and whatnot. So fast forward to now, we're looking at using technology like an AI-powered fair pay scale to help women price their services based on the scope, the project, the location, their experience. And so these are tools that we're developing still. But when we launched the very early, first, what we call MVP version of the marketplace, which is minimum viable product, there was a different setup basically where you had to show what your rate was. You could either put it by flat or hourly. Now we're more advanced and everything is complete custom. Because of course, as a service provider, you're not going to necessarily want to give the same rate to Sony Studios as you do.
But I want to hit the rewind button there, and I want to go back to the early days of building this out. And I'd love to ask this question to entrepreneurs. Shira, do you remember that first time you guys got punched in the face. That first lesson learned the hard way. You're like, shit, I thought we had something here. I thought we were doing it right. And all of a sudden you're like, nope, that's not it. Start over or try again.
Something that comes to mind was after so our first check-in was Long Beach Accelerator, and then we were fortunate enough to get Live Nation to invest, which was like huge. So that was a win. But then we used that money to completely redo our tech. And I was on a pitch competition one day in November, which was already a stressful situation because anyone who's ever done a pitch competition, you have to go into the pitch competition just completely convincing yourself that you're going to win. There's really no other way to go in. And then if you don't win, it's like this big fall from grace. And most entrepreneurs were hard on ourselves. Oh, we should have practiced more. We could have done better. Even though everyone on the pitch competition is amazing. But the day of the pitch competition ended up being the day that we upgraded the platform. And it went down. The site went down. And I was freaking. And I was like,
always. Why does that always happen?
I was on a call with an investor and my developer slacking me. I need the code for GoDaddy, your emails, like just classic startup stuff. We got through it, but very stressful. Yeah.
So in addition to the marketplace, what are some of the other elements you're doing as far as community building to really empower women to have that confidence and have those tools?
Yeah, so we're working actually on a premium subscription to have upskilling content. We really want to help women stay on top of these emerging technologies. There's a fun fact that 85% of the jobs that today's college students will have in 11 years haven't even been invented yet.
Oh, I love that stat. Yeah.
Today's, let's say, session musician might be tomorrow's music prompt engineer. So we want to help women like stay on top of this to get further ahead in the next chapter. And as the landscape changes, and we want to help companies source these women. Yeah.
What's next on the horizon? Give us some alpha. What are you guys working on? With the AI, you spoke about the AI stuff, right? And that's interesting because there's so many new data sources out there, which now the AI could take all this information and give you ideas and generate different ways to use it and prompt it. So what are some of these ideas that are coming out of the research and the work?
We're excited about the AI matching tool that we have in development. And essentially the site works through filters now, similar to an Airbnb, right? Where you go on, you're like, okay, I'm looking for this category and this price range, this location. We also have diversity tags. So if you're looking for, let's say, a queer creator for Pride Month campaign, makes it easy.
Get granular.
Yeah. You still have to go through the filter process and browse through the listings. What we're going to have is an AI matching tool where you can just put in a few prompts and it's going to say, it'll rank them. Here's the best matches for you. And so we're excited about, streamlining that process. And we're also using it to develop our AI concierge. So if you need a little bit more of a hands-on approach to perhaps staffing a team, let's say you're doing an event, you don't want to just hire one by one. Not only do you want to hire a team of videographers, DJ, what you would love to do is hire people that have worked together before.
Yes,
and that's something that's unique. Exactly, because we have this great community. A lot of them have worked together before, and people just work together better when they have worked together before. And of course, if a stage manager has worked with a sound tech, the communication is there and everything. So that's a big value proposition for us too, aside from just having all female talent to hire on in Pink. We can help scale with teams. And as AI is reducing the headcount and changing the work landscape, that need to spin up an entire team to collaborate quickly is impacting more industries.
So I want to hit on a theme that has been ever present in your life and your career is using music as a tool for social change and really pushing the conversation forward and pushing change forward. How do you take that and when you're building your own teams, ensure that those same values are with the people that are in your own organization?
Yeah, I think it's so important. We have an all-female team. But we do have male advisors, and we have had men come and go that have been part of it, which I think is important to have our male allies, because we want men to know you can be part of this movement. You can hire talent on in Pink if you're looking to women to collaborate with.
Men here.
Exactly. And that's important. And sometimes we'll get a press clip that says marketplace for women, and this is for everyone. We're featuring women talent and non-binary talent, but it really is for everyone. But okay, sorry, I talked too much and I forgot the original question.
I'm talking more about like when you're
how do you keep your team diverse? Yes.
Right. Yes. How do you keep your team diverse, but also making sure that everyone is on the same. Listen, I am the biggest proponent for diversity in hiring, and I'm not just talking about skin color, religion, sexual orientation, but diversity of mindset and diversity of perspectives. Because you don't want a whole company of yes women or yes men, right? You want people that are going to challenge the status quo respectfully, that are going to bring different ideas to the table, but ultimately everybody's still on the same page when it comes to values.
No, I think it's so important. Our company culture is very transparent. And when we're on these team calls, I'm always encouraging the team to speak out and to bring alternative I don't just want it to be me speaking at the company, right? I want to hear alternative perspectives, to your point. And that's why I was joking around the other day, because sometimes I'll refer to a stat that, over 40%, basically companies that are more diverse have 40% higher chance of reaching their financial goals. And I started thinking about, okay, maybe we do need men on the team, right? Because we have to practice what we preach.
Maybe we're not being diverse.
We're telling all these male-dominant companies hire women, and we're like, oh, we need to make sure that we have the male perspective. So again, as I say, we have male advisors, and we've had some fractional talent. And so I'm constantly looking at the team saying, how can we do better? We also have trans people. We have a lot of different perspectives, geography wise, because we have a mostly remote team. So we have people in North Carolina, in the South,
distributed workforce.
Yeah. And I think that's important too, is just getting that different, like you said, POV.
So let's bring it home here. What, from a business owner perspective, is keeping you up at night? Or not just a business owner, let's scale it up a little bit more. Just, are you seeing the change out there that you're trying to create? What is keeping you up at night?
Honestly, in this tech world that I'm building in, capital raising is really important. And it's not even just about what I raise right now, which is important. You have to get to the next round. We're in this pre-seed round, and you have to get the seed, Series A, Series B. You have to look ahead, and you have to be laying the groundwork to keep investors interested. If we want to scale to something like a Fiverr, which had an IPO, and go that route. And honestly, it's such a hackneyed fact that I don't really talking about, but women receive less than 2% of all venture capital funding, which is mind-boggling, considering that women-owned companies perform better. They make more money. It's crazy, and there's just such inherent bias. And of course, it gets way worse when you're talking about women of color and people of color. Honestly, capital raising right now is tough. It's been a rough climate for a couple of years. Everyone keeps saying, "Oh, it's going to switch." Now we have the election. There's always, by the way, if you ever have raised money, there's always someone telling you it's not a good time to raise. So it's pretty much never. Yeah, literally. Yeah. Oh, it's people away for the summer, which is true. Everyone's in Europe.
It's an election time. The economy's
exactly
crap. Right? There's never a good time, but the time is now.
Yeah. We've been fortunate to raise over $600,000, but we're driving towards close. We're raising $1 million, and it's just you eat rejections for breakfast, Adam. It's just
I'm a recruiter. I'm in the same. I live and breathe rejections all day, and I'm also not a fan of redirection. Rejection is redirection. I hate that one. That's literally my least favorite. So
I had not heard that one.
You never heard rejection is redirection? It's one of those sorry, try again kind of things. It's like a consolation prize. It's bullshit. I hate that. Maybe rejection is maybe take a step back, and if you want to break that down, maybe I should reevaluate what I'm doing and redirect if you want to go that way. I'm going to spin one of my classic questions on you. What advice, based on your experience, my daughter is a creator. She's a singer. She's a dancer. She's theatrical. What advice, Shira, she's 12 years old. What advice would you give her to be confident and successful?
I think to focus on developing her own skills and confidence is number one thing. Don't know what it's like to grow up in the social media world. I'm an elder millennial. Like, I grew up before that stuff. And I feel like even in myself, like when you go on social media, you get sucked into this vortex of what's everyone else doing. And you get the FOMO. I should be there. I should be doing that. I don't have enough followers. And it's rough. And so I've honestly been like posting less and less. Luckily, we have an amazing team that focuses on our content for Gritty. But I think it's just really focus on building that foundation for yourself, the confidence, and not worrying so much about likes and comments and what people are liking. And because, when you're at 12, like I said, looking back, I wish I had just powered through and done the keyboard lessons. It's like
it's a lesson you have to learn.
Yeah, like any way to diversify your skills, and then also go with what you love. Like at the end of the day, the instrument thing was not for me. I'm a dancer. My body's my instrument. And so when I perform, like I have this all-girl band, Shira Girl, right? It's a punk rock band. But I'm also in a fun side project called She Blime. It's an all-girl tribute to Sublime.
Oh, I love it. Love Sublime.
It's so fun. But we're a five-piece because Bradley used to play guitar. I don't play guitar. So we make it our own. So don't be afraid to make things your own either. Like even though I don't play guitar, we played this backyard party the other day called City Stock. One of my investors throws this annual party. It's a food drive. And there's a pool. And I literally sang Badfish from a pool float. It was so fun. People loved it. And it was like, okay, I'm bringing my own flavor. Okay.
There you go.
I'm not playing guitar, but I'm doing my own thing. So it's just don't be afraid to put your own spin on things.
I'm loving Brad's son leading the band right now.
It's so great, Jake. I know.
I caught that. The new song is awesome. And he sounds, listen, and he plays guitar and he sounds like his dad. And It's not just, it's real and it's in the blood. And I love that. I was also cool with Sublime with Rome, but now that he's coming back into it, it's pretty cool. So we could talk about that for hours. But Shira,
it's awesome. Yeah.
Last but not least, you've had quite the career that's still going. And I applaud you for your activism and really leading through music, something that's near and dear to my heart. And you've had success. You can have more success, and you've had failures there. But Shira, Yevin, how do you define success?
It's such a great question. Like, to me, success is like feeling good about what I do and feeling like I'm living my purpose, honestly. And I think in business, like you mentioned, you have all these oh shit moments where you're like, what's going to happen? And by that, in those moments, you're living in like in a fear place, right? And you have to be able to really like just trust it in the universe and have the faith that it's going to work out. And there are really stressful moments, but if you are living your purpose and you know this is what you're born to do, look, the company might look we're a startup, right? It could look very different in 3 years, 5 years, 1 year. Who knows, right? We could change the whole business model. But the why is still the same. We're a mission-oriented business, and we want to achieve gender equity and equality in music and beyond. I think if you're doing what you're meant to do, that's what really gets you through the hardest days. It's just this trust that like, okay, yeah, I could shut down this company and go get a job, but I just know I'm going to be miserable because I'm going to be living someone else's dream. So it's not an option. I think to me, that's success. But of course, there's also other markers. You have to celebrate milestones. Like when we got in Forbes, that was a big thing for me. I wanted to make my dad proud and show him the business was real.
We did it. Yeah. Shira, this has been a great conversation. What you're doing is important on so many different levels.
Thank you.
We need to level the playing field, right? It's 2024. Enough of this shit.
Absolutely.
We live in a world where men, women, non-binary, whatever the hell you are, we're equals. We're all on the same page here. So keep up the good fight. I want all the women, check out In Pink Marketplace. We're going to link it up in the comments. And of course, follow the Gritty and Shira's accounts. We're going to link it up to Shira's LinkedIn, Gritty and Pink on Instagram, Gritty and Pink on TikTok, all that stuff. Check it out in the show notes. Shira, where else could folks connect? Where could they learn more? Did I miss anything there?
I do want to mention that if you are a woman or non-binary person working in any aspect of the music industry, so it doesn't just have to be music or audio or live talent. We have business, graphics, marketing, local services like photo, video. Please go on In Pink, sign up, add a listing. You can submit a listing. It's free. We don't take a cut of what you earn, and you can join our community. So that's a big thing. And then if you're in the market you might be throwing a party, maybe a wedding, you need a photographer. Consider hiring on In Pink. And then on Instagram, we're Gritty and Pink Life. And of course, we're on TikTok and all the things. And I will say, also check out my band while we're here, Shira Girl.
Yes, get all the plugs in. That's what it's all here for.
Yeah. Thank you.
Shira, I want to thank you so much for joining me. This has been a fantastic conversation. And everyone out there, if this show resonated with you, leave a review rating. It goes a long way. Sharing means caring. You know where to find out more at thepodcast.com. Follow us on social media. Remember, be good to yourself, be better to others, and catch us next week for another great episode of the podcast. Take care, everybody.
Wisdom is forever, but for us, it's time to go. Thank you for joining us. Luckily, we'll be back with our next episode soon, jam-packed with more incredible humans. Thank you for listening, subscribing, and sharing. To join the conversation, search the podcast on LinkedIn. And to catch up on past episodes and more info, please visit www.thepodcast.com.